Please, have a seat. I would ask you please, this is a rule that Srila Prabhupada asked us to convey. I would appreciate if nobody touched my feet. You can touch around the feet. I'm not that advanced that I can take your karmic reactions at this time. Okay? If I were, I would be happy to do so. Even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's God himself, prevented people from touching his feet. Okay? So please restrain yourself in this particular situation. You are always welcome to offer pranams. You always offer to place your hand near feet, but not on the feet. Thank you so much for your understanding. This is standard etiquette in our ISKCON. So I'm going to begin tonight. Sorry, the light is not. From reading a few of the verses. These verses are very important, but before I begin, I want to thank you all for coming. It's a pleasure to meet you, privilege to offer these teachings to you, and also to the dog. We like everybody to be satisfied. Even though the dog doesn't understand, he will get the benefit and the mercy of the spiritual discourse. So he's answering, he's saying thank you. So, I hope he doesn't give me too much competition. So anyway.
Shall I send it to the other house, Prabhupada? Or shall I send it to the other house if it's disturbing? The dog, shall I send it to the other house? Is it disturbing?
Well, I think if you want to hear me, you need not even ask me. It's a distraction, and if the dog continues, then it should definitely put it in another place. So, anyway, continuing, I will be speaking on this particular verse in the disciplic succession, the Sampradaya of the. This is the Gaudiya Sampradaya, Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya Sampradaya. When Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, he spoke and he had something very specific, something very particular in mind. And in order to know what that is, of course he spoke, he gave this knowledge to Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma conveyed it to Narada Muni. Narada Muni conveyed it to Vyasadeva. And Vyasadeva then conveyed it to Shukdev Goswami, his son. And so on it went from disciple to disciple to disciple. And I've received it somewhere along the line. And I then convey it to you, and you convey it to others, and in that way the knowledge gets conveyed with the exact idea, the exact understanding, the exact meaning. Sometimes in time, things can get changed according to people's whims, according to people's desires, according to people's prejudices, biases. All of these things can cause the change in the meaning. But our business in the Gaudiya Sampradaya is to maintain the meaning that was given originally by Krishna, so that what the information, the knowledge that you receive is the knowledge that you must learn and that we must apply to our lives, and by so doing we will get the wonderful blessings and benedictions. If you try to apply knowledge which is not consistent with truth, then you will get an opposite result. It will not benefit, it will not help, and rather it may even harm you. Okay? For example, if somebody says, well, it's a little, to have a little, because the person happens to be a little bit greedy. Okay? Greed means the more he gets, the more he wants. He can never get enough, because he's always frightened that he's going to lose it. So, therefore he says it's okay to have a little greed, because he has greed. But that's not what it says in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay? He's trying to justify a fault. And so therefore everybody says, well, if it's okay to have a little greed, then I'll be a little greedy. So everybody starts to become a little greedy, but greed is never a little. Because the more you manifest it, the more it grows. It is very much like if you've ever had a rash. You have a rash on your skin, you start to scratch it, and a little pus comes out. And the children have to go in another room, please. No, different room for the children. Thank you. Yes, so as I said, if you have a rash on your skin, you keep scratching it, the pus will smear, and then what happens, it begins to irritate the nerves of the other skin, and then you start scratching there, and then you start scratching here, and if anybody have ever had poison oak or poison ivy, it comes from a leaf, and if the leaf touches, the oil on the leaf irritates the nerves, and you start scratching, and before you know it, it's all over your body. So, anyway, getting back to the main point in this Krishna consciousness, that in this disciplic succession, we want everything to spread in a proper and in a natural, in a useful way. So, therefore, it is very important that the meanings not be changed, the meanings not be distorted, and Srila Prabhupada made this a very big point of this. By changing the meanings, you change the behavior of people. Instead of behaving in a proper way, they justify behaving in an improper or incorrect way. So this is not a good thing, okay? So therefore, I'm very proud and very glad that I've received these teachings in the way that they came from Lord Krishna, and I have proven in my own life how correct they are by the benefits that I've received. And as a result of the benefits that I've received, I come to share them with everybody here, and I travel around the country and around the world to share them, simply because peace of mind and joy of spirit are for everyone, not just the few who are blessed to have them from a great spiritual master like Srila Prabhupada. He was my spiritual master, but he wanted us to share them with everyone and anyone that we could properly give them to, so that everyone could have peace of mind, inner joy, inner spirit. Today, people are so miserable and suffering from physical disorders, suffering from mental disorders, emotional disorders, from disorders which come from other beings, such as the demigods. These disorders, physical, are the result of sins that many of us have created, either in this lifetime or in a previous lifetime. So those sins are sometimes which we don't have time, the reactions have to come in some time. And if we don't have enough time on the karmic program in a particular life, then what happens? They will come in a future life. We don't always get, for example, let us just say you're living a very pure life, you're living a very sweet life, a very cultured life, a very moral life. You're doing everything the way it is supposed to be done. Nonetheless, some illnesses or some problems are coming which you never expected. Where are they coming from? Everything you've been doing is right. Why should you be getting a disease or a disorder? Even if your food, the foods you're eating are correct, the thoughts you're having are good, the actions, your behavior are according to the scriptures. If all these things are correct, why? From previous lifetimes which we have committed wrongs, which we have not done penance for, we have not done austerities for. Therefore, if you harm somebody in the past, then the harm must come back. Unless you have committed or you've performed certain austerities, certain penances, certain atonement for those. So therefore, it's very important that we learn to perform the proper actions. Now, if a person learns to perform Hare Krishna mantra, then he can overcome much of this karmic reaction. Thank you. So that is the important point. The purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to try to help us to avoid, prevent suffering. And if suffering is going to be coming, how to forestall it, how to eradicate it. If it's coming, it's going to hit you. If I tell you you're going to have a big lump in your throat, how can you prevent that? So by practicing the Hare Krishna mantra, which is non-different from Krishna, it's one with Krishna, then you are associating with Krishna. And if there's any bad karmic reactions from the past, what you're doing actually is you are slowly but surely getting rid of the past karmic reactions of the past. And instead of getting a big lump, you get a tiny pimple. It's kind of like a token reaction. You get something, but you don't get the whole works. You don't get everything. And this is Krishna's mercy. Okay? I mean, suppose you're supposed to get a big lump here, but he turns it into a tiny pimple, and you put some medicine on it and it goes away completely. That means you've been spared terrible pain. The cancerous lump. I saw one of the persons I knew, he had this big lump here. So the point of all of this is to avoid suffering, to prevent suffering, to overcome suffering, so that we have a life of peace, a life of joy, a life of satisfaction, a life of fulfillment, a life of true happiness. That can only come when we actually make Krishna our life and soul. When we look up to Krishna as our all in all. Krishna is all powerful. He's all knowing. He knows everything. He has all power. He's present everywhere, and especially in our hearts. He's present in the floor, in the light, in the fan, in the pictures, everywhere, in the cloth, in the book. He's invisibly present, and he hears everything we think. He's in our heart, and he's there to help us. Krishna is called Paramatma, or Super Soul. So if we learn how to get in touch with Super Soul, learn how to glorify the Super Soul, honor the Super Soul, submit ourselves to the principles of the Super Soul, then what happens is Krishna will give us what? He will give us His grace. He will give us His love. He will give us His affection. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, as you surrender unto me, I reward you accordingly. Rewarding how? It gives us more and more of Himself. And what is Himself? He is eternality. He is knowledge. He is bliss, absolute. He is all that and so much more. When He gives us His peace, that means when things happen in the world or happen in our communities, happen in our families, we can remain peaceful. We can remain calm. We can remain controlled instead of upset, disturbed, shaken, worried. This is the normal thing. But if you can stay peaceful, stay calm, stay controlled, you can only do that when you have the mercy, the grace of Krishna upon the soul. And therefore you feel peaceful, you feel joyful, you feel happy, you feel undisturbed. Therefore it is a very important principle in devotional life to always try to think of Krishna. How do we always think of Krishna? We're always thinking of ourselves, think of my body, I think of my thinking, I think of my home, I think of my car, I think of my children. I'm thinking of all these things. How often do we spend in a given day thinking of Krishna, His greatness, His glory? He's feeding us, He's clothing us, He's sheltering us. When we need medicine, He gives us the medicine. He gives us the water. If you don't have water, you can't have any food. If you don't have sunshine, you can't have any food. If you don't have air blowing, you will not have crops growing. People will suffocate. So Krishna is providing all these things for us. If you don't have water, you can't take a shower. If you don't have water, you can't clean your vegetables. If you don't have water, you can't grow things. Who is providing all of these things, huh? Tell me, who is providing?
Krishna.
Krishna. Only two people know? Who is providing these things?
Krishna.
Oh, that's a little better. Now, I want to hear that 99% are not sleeping tonight. Okay, so please give me a break. Okay, Krishna is providing these things. Say it like you mean it. When Krishna is happy to hear you say, yes, Lord, you're providing it. You're giving me your grace. You're giving me your love. You're giving me your guidance. You're giving me your direction. You're giving me medication. You've given me education. You're giving me money. You're giving me a job. You're doing all these things for me. And if I didn't have you, I would have nothing. There are people who go to Ethiopia, go to different places of Africa, and you'll find people just dying one by one like flies. They have nothing. Why? Because their bad karma, their sins, their wrongs, their evils that they performed in a previous life. Some of them were Nazis in the Second World world, and they starve people. So now what happens? They get their karma, sent to a place where there will be no food, and they will feel the starvation that they gave to 8 million or 9 million Jews who were starved seemingly without purpose, simply because they had a different religion. So all these things are happening there. They're not happening there, but they could happen here. If we ignore Krishna, excuse me, my neck's a little stiff tonight. If we ignore Krishna, we neglect Krishna, we're indifferent to Krishna, we don't ever think about Krishna. He's helping us. We're thinking about our body, we're thinking about our community, we're thinking about this. Fine. Think about the one who's giving it to us. Without him, you get nothing. Okay? And if you don't thank him, you'll lose it. Believe me, if you don't say, thank you, my Lord, thanks for the food, thanks for my water, thanks for this education, thanks for this Vedic knowledge, you will lose it. And if you lose it, you lose the means, the way by which you can become. This is the way that you become peaceful, joyful, happy, sustained, and fulfilled. Krishna gives it to you. He's in your heart. And without his grace, you don't get anything. You can't have peace on your own. You can do yogic techniques, you can work with your nerves, you can soothe them, you can quiet them, you can take some Valium, or you can take some tranquilizer, you can do all that. How long will it last? An hour, 2 hours, and then you're back to square one. You're back to where you were. Take another one, and another one, and another one. Drug addict. Become a drug addict, and what happens? When you become a drug addict, you can't live without the drugs. And then you're spending 20 and 30 and 50 and hundreds of dollars on your drugs, when all you have to do instead is just depend upon the mercy of Krishna. He's not asking you to pay him. He's not saying, please, you have to give me some money. He's simply saying, all I want is your love. Give me your love. Give me your dedication. Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, just try to learn the truth by approaching the spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Having obtained real knowledge from the self-realized soul, you will never again fall into such illusion. For by this knowledge, you will never again fall into such illusion, and you will know that all living beings are but mine. You're Krishna's. You belong to Krishna. You belong to Krishna. I belong to Krishna. You belong to Krishna. We all belong to him. And who does this house belong to? No, it doesn't belong to the person who's paying the rent. It belongs to the person who's enabling you to pay the rent. And that is whom?
Krishna.
Okay, good. We got that right. Yes, Krishna allows you to pay the rent, gives you a job. People say, well, what do you mean he gives me a job? I went and I filled out the application, I filled out the resume, and they called me and I got the job. But 1,000 didn't get the job. You got the job because of your good karma. You did some good things, some pious things, some valuable things, some worthwhile things which Krishna appreciates, and as a result of his appreciation, he gives you a job. If you don't give credit to him and you take the credit for yourself, what will happen is your pride will keep swelling. You'll think, I did it, I did it, I did it, I did it. And then one day somebody will call you a fool, and you become so upset because you think you're so great, you're so wonderful, you're so glorious, you're so impossibly wonderful. And what will that result in? So you get into an argument, you get into a fight, and you get into a fight, you'll land in the hospital for maybe 2 months, 3 months, who knows how long.